Merry Christmas, friends. And it's Christmas Eve, so I thought, what's a better time to start talking about the last Christmas song ever? "200 years ago tonight, Silent Night was performed for the very first time. The day before, Joseph Mohr came to his friend Franz Gruber, not to be confused with Die Hard fame Hans Gruber, and said, hey, I've got this poem, could you put some music to it so we could perform it tomorrow night? And in 60 minutes, Franz Gruber wrote the guitar that you would know as Silent Night. What does that have to do with the last Christmas song? Well, it's technically the first Christmas song. And when we're talking about Christmas songs, there's something known as the Christmas canon. That is the 28 songs that you hear over and over and over again this time of year. And they fall into three categories. The first of which is known as classical. That's what Silent Night falls into. They come out of church, right? So things that you would hear in church, Joy to the World, Silent Night, Old Holy Night, those sort of things. Those fall in classical. And then the bulk of what you listen to happened in World War II. Call it the 40s, the 50s, and the 60s. And then there's this third modern part of the canon that's the 70s, the 80s, and a tiny sliver of the 90s. In fact, in 1994, the Christmas canon closes. What do I mean? Well, after Mariah Carey records All I Want for Christmas Is You, and Adam Sandler records the Hanukkah song, essentially the Christmas canon closes. We've repeated the same 28 songs over and over again since 1994, not adding any new songs to the Christmas canon. And you can argue that you have a favorite song that you like to listen to every year. That is great. That's not part of canon. And if you're not somebody who's very familiar with canon, go to a Comic-Con and argue with somebody about comic canon, and you'll understand the passion behind things that have the word canon attached to them. What I find fascinating is at no point did we have a vote or come together and say, hey, these are the 28 songs that we're going to listen to every year, and we're not really going to change it. It just happened. The best way to see this is if you watch ants perform in and around the hive, right? We call it a hive mind. It's more astutely an emergent mind, meaning the people involved, the bees that are protecting themselves from hornets or the ants that are building a thing, they don't necessarily tell one another what to do. It just happens. We didn't necessarily decide as a collective that these are the 28 songs we're going to listen to. It just sort of happened. Part of that is because this time of year we're feeling nostalgic. And so the songs need to evoke some sort of nostalgia for us to kind of look back on yesteryear and feel something about the Christmases in the past and that warm feeling you got when you were a kid and you ran downstairs at Christmas and opened presents from Santa. They need to evoke that. What happens when you're in the modern world trying to make those songs, you fabricate some of that stuff and it doesn't stick around. My favorite example of this right now is the Illumination version of The Grinch that's out this year. No one will watch that next year because that doesn't really dial into the nostalgia in the same way that the original or even the Jim Carrey one. The Jim Carrey is part of the movie Christmas canon. The one from this year won't make it because it doesn't really have that nostalgic feel to it. And so, as you are getting ready to celebrate the holidays tonight and tomorrow and the rest of the week as we head into 2019, I'm just mesmerized by this idea that these 28, 29 songs that we've just kind of decided, this is it, started 200 years ago with Silent Night that was written in 60 minutes. And we celebrate the anniversary tonight. Merry Christmas, guys. Have a great week.